r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. Mall Santas of Reddit. What is the most disturbing, heart-wrenching, or weirdest thing a child has asked you for? When I was 6, my big sister spent weeks carefully coaching me to say, "Santa, all I want for Christmas is a cure for my contagious hemorrhoids, which are on my butt and now on your lap." I had no idea what it meant, but I said it perfectly. Santa looked like he wanted to murder me. Edit. Thanks for the gold, stranger. I wasn't Santa, but I was playing the elf role. There was one instance where a little girl came in with her father. She must have been 4 or 5. She sat on Santa's lap and he asked her what she wanted for Christmas. Timidly, she whispered something. Santa couldn't hear her, so he asked her again. She said, a little louder, "I want my mommy for Christmas." The girl started crying and the dad immediately rushed up and grabbed her. He was rubbing her back and saying, "We talked about this, honey. Mommy's gone to heaven." And she was sobbing and the dad started to cry and he ran with her out of the mall. It was the most depressing thing I had ever experienced. I saw at least 5 or 6 mothers in line silently shedding tears watching the spectacle. I think the saddest one I ever watched was waiting in line with my daughter at Walmart to be next on Santa's lap, and the boy in front of her was whispering, which was weird. All of them had been kind of average, we could hear their responses. He also looked about 8 or 9 and was so frail looking. Well, I guess he finally got tired of being asked what he wanted because the associate couldn't hear him. He finally spoke up that he wanted food, because his tummy was tired of hurting, and so was mommy and daddy's, but that daddy couldn't find another job yet he had an owie. The associate, being Santa, had the camera girl call the manager of the store, and when they showed up they had a cart with all the fixing for a dinner, as well as canned goods, soups, snack foods, etc. and gave it to the family. I wasn't even mad for the half-hour hold up after that. It made me feel better knowing the little boy and any sibling he might have as well as his family weren't going to go hungry, or have minuscule amounts to eat for a little while at least. I was a Santa for 4 seasons. Here's a couple, nothing too serious. Kid at the front of the line yells to his mom, so everyone in the mall can hear, "Mom, can I ask Santa to use his special magic to get dad out of jail?" But when he got on my lap he asked for a car. One day I had a long line of kids all upset and crying. A company was having their Christmas party in another part of the mall and had their own Santa who was handing out presents to the children of the employees. Problem was that this was in full view of the public, so it was clear that there were 2 Santas at the mall. And only one was handing out presents. Oh yeah, one more. Teenagers like to sit on your lap and try to shock you, which probably works with many Santas, but I was pretty young when I did the job. One evening this rocker girl came in with her friends and sat on my lap, and when I asked her what she wanted for Christmas, she said, Kurt Cobain's body. So I put on this guilty act and replied, "Oh, I still feel really bad about that cause I gave him the gun." I was elementary school Santa for 3 years. This experience still haunts me. I'd had a long morning of little tykes with retail advertising dreams of all kinds of shiny new must-have toys, older boys with dreams of motorized vehicles, and older girls with dreams of cute boys and makeup and clothes. After a break to feed the reindeer, those costumes are hot, I returned to a busy classroom filled with kids working at all the activities and having fun. And then, after another hour of the usual, I met 2 little children dressed in their Sunday best. And each of them perched on my knee, looked deep into my eyes, and asked, quietly and from the depths of their hearts, "Please Santa, I don't want any toys. I don't want anything. I just want my baby sister to get better." And suddenly I knew who they were. Their little sister, age 7, was dying of cancer in the local children's hospital. We had already done a school fundraiser for her and her family. Our scout troop had raked leaves at their house and helped them with their Thanksgiving dinner. It took everything I had to not weep. I hugged each child close in turn, gave them their candy cane, and told them that it wasn't up to Santa, but I would do my best to put in a good word with the guy upstairs. And told them to remember that everybody loved them too, and that it was okay to have fun for themselves. And that I would do what I could to make sure they had some presents. They each smiled a little bit in turn, and went to hug each other and their grandmother. I could see the smile through the pain in her eyes and she led them to other activities. I called a break to check on Rudolph on the roof and walked as rapidly as I could to the teacher's lounge, where I wept quietly for the little girl and her family and the unselfish love of little children, and then put on the suit and went back to work with a broken heart. She died 2 days after Christmas. We planted a butterfly garden at the school in her name, just outside the office window. It's a pretty place, with a shaded bench and brilliant flowers. And the butterflies come there in the summer and dance. Edit. The gold was very sweet, thank you. Give the love forward, folks. Always remember, sadness shared is sadness reduced. Joy shared is joy increased. I am not a mall Santa, just a nurse on Pedzaiku. Me being one of the few males, it was my turn to be Santa for the kids in children's hospital. I also like to dress up, mainly as a superhero, but that's not the point here. We are used to some really hard and tough requests kids make, but the one I'll remember for the rest of my life is a kid with few months to live and who knows it. He asked from Santa to promise him he'll take care of the family and animals, which is not the first time a kid has asked something like that, but he was very precise and knew exactly what each and every one of them would like and enjoy. He was 4 years old. I was a mall Santa once in college. I'm from the Northeast United States and college was in the deep South. My elves were girls from a local business school who were running the mall Santa thing as a senior project. The best thing that happened was when a bunch of the elves' friends showed up and whispered some very unladylike things in Santa's ears, just to see how red they could make Santa's cheeks. The funniest was one little kid who, after I had been chatting with him for a while, looked at me wide-eyed and said, "Santa, you sound like a Yankee." After a few seconds of frantic desperation, I simply told him, "Well, that's because I live at the North Pole." He found the logic inescapable, plus me promising him a football helped. A few years back I filled in for Santa at a locally owned toy store. As I don't quite look old enough to be Santa, and I have a full lush gingery lumberjack beard, I was billed as Nick Jr., and the story was that my dad was Santa and I was in training to be the next Santa. He was having me go and fill in for him at some of the usual stops as part of my training in getting to talk to the little kids. Oh man. The kids loved that. There was a rocking chair that I was supposed to sit in, but I sat on the floor with the kids and chatted and it was freaking awesome. The kids really connected with this idea of a trainee Santa. The most heart-wrenching story was a little girl, about 7 or so, who was staying with her dad and stepmom because her mommy was deathly ill in the hospital. She came and saw me every day that I was there and she just wanted to talk to someone she knew could really understand where she was coming from in her fear. She hoped that she could come visit the North Pole, but understood if it wasn't possible. My last day of the gig she brought me a handwritten and crayon note thanking me for everything, saying she was glad to have met me and hoping that I grew up to be the best Santa ever. Lem tell ya, all the feels. I am going to keep that damned note forever. Heart-wrenching with a twist. I worked as a mall Santa in high school and likely experienced every crazy story you could imagine, but one in particular stands out most vividly in my mind. A young boy waited quietly with his mother in line until it was his turn to sit in my lap and have his picture taken. As his mother started to follow him up towards my chair, he turned around and yelled, "No mom, you have to stay back there." I watched the mom look at him pleadingly and she reluctantly agreed to keep her distance. As I tried to make sense of the situation, I invited him up to my chair. He looked to be 8 or 9, which was older than most of the kids in line. When I got around to asking him what he wanted for Christmas, his eyes locked onto mine and it happened. "If you're real, then aren't you supposed to know?" As I fumbled around with my words, it dawned on me. Here he was, on the cusp of becoming a non-believer, and his plan was to make sure his mother couldn't whisper to me the gift he had been hoping for. I tried to play it cool and come up with an explanation on the fly, when suddenly the mother dropped her bags and started jumping, punching, and kicking the air furiously. Shoppers stopped dead in their tracks, staring at her. We were at the main intersection of a 2-story indoor mall. I said something along the lines of, "Well, you can't expect me to bring you those Power Rangers if you aren't a good boy and listen to your mother." He melted, instantly. His eyes grew wide and his jaw dropped. Before I could react, he buried his head into my foam padded chest and gave me the best hug all Christmas season. The mother couldn't believe it herself and tried to gather herself as her overjoyed son turned to run and explained to her how Santa really is real and that he had proven it, at least for another year. Worth it. I wasn't Santa, but I volunteered at a less wealthy public school Christmas toy clothing drive that made sure all the kids would have something to wake up to on Christmas. I had a little boy ask for a jacket that still had the tag on it because he had only ever had used clothes. Being in a not so lucky family growing up helped me relate to him. When I was a freshman in college, I got a gig as a mall Santa at a smaller local mall. A little girl came up to me and sat on my lap. I asked her in the most jovial way what she wanted for Christmas. She pulls out a picture of her dead dog and says, "Can you bring my dog back?" The look on her face when I said no was heart-wrenching. When I was 17, I worked for a Kmart and volunteered to be the store Santa. Mostly because it meant I could spend a majority of my Saturday shift sitting in a chair as opposed to pushing shopping carts. We would offer free photos inside a little pre-made Kmart Christmas card. The kids were easy. Ask what they want for Christmas, snap a photo, and done. Every once in a while you would get the kids screaming bloody murder while their parents forced them to take a picture with Santa. But I was that screaming kid once, so it never really bothered me. Adults was where it got a little creepy. Since the photos were free, the mothers would get in on it as well. Some would just openly hit on me. "Can I have you for Christmas?" The worst was an older woman who looked me in the eyes and said, "I just want the pain to go away, Santa." Me being 17 years old had no freaking idea what to say. Oh, okay. When we were little, my mom took my older brother and I, we're about 18 months apart, to the mall to see Santa. They had a black one and a white one. My brother cried because he got put on black Santa's lap. He didn't stop until white Santa came along. When I was little, I got lost in the mall. The mall security called my dad over the PA system, and when he picked me up, I was crying because I asked Santa for help and he wouldn't help me. That bastard. For Christmas I want a shaky hot dog, like the one mummy keeps in her drawers. I'm 99% sure this didn't actually happen. Whether it happened or not, shaky hot dog is my new favorite euphemism. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening. And Merry Christmas.